Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this session of Spokane Public Schools Keep Learning series for mathematics. Today's lesson is for students in grade 2, but all of you are welcome to join in. My name is Miss Kim, and I'm a second grade teacher at Grant Elementary in Spokane Public Schools. I will be your teacher for this lesson. I'm so glad you are participating with me today. If you didn't see our previous lessons, you are welcome to go onto the KSPS website. Sometimes it is helpful to go back and watch other lessons in our series so you can continue to build your understanding of the mathematics we will be doing together. Today, we will be learning how to divide rectangles into halves, thirds, and fourths, and using those parts to create equal shares. For today's lesson, you may need some paper and a pencil. I'll give you a moment to gather your supplies. Okay, let's get started. Let's take a moment to review what fractions are, because we'll be using them today as we divide up our rectangles. A fraction is a number expressed as some number of equal parts of a whole. You can see some examples on the screen. For 1/4, one section of 4 equally sized sections is shaded in, so we describe that as 1/4. For 1/3, one of the 3 circles is shaded in, so it's 1 out of 3 in the whole set. And the last picture shows a rectangle with 1 out of 2 equal parts shaded in, so we describe that as 1/2. It's really important to remember that fractions describe equal parts of a whole. So when you look at each of these pictures, the parts are all the same size. Today we're going to use what we've learned about fractions to solve some problems in a story. If you've ever read the book 100 Angry Ants, you may be familiar with this story. Some ants go on a picnic and they find some graham crackers, and they want to make sure to share all the graham crackers equally amongst all of them. So some ants come upon one graham cracker. Let's think about how they could share this graham cracker depending on how many ants are in the group. So the first group that you see on the left are 2 ants. How could 2 ants share the graham cracker equally? One way they could do it is to cut the graham cracker into halves. That way each ant gets 1/2 and they both get an equal amount of the graham cracker. Okay, what if there were 3 ants in the group that found the graham cracker? How could we split the graham cracker to make it equal for all? I hope you said we could split it into thirds. So each ant could get 1 of the thirds. They're all the same size, and each ant gets an equal amount. Now what about 4 ants? How could we split up a graham cracker so that each of the 4 ants get the same amount? We could split it into fourths, and each ant would get 1/4. So when we have one cookie to share among many ants, we cut it up into equal pieces to match the number of ants. But what if there's more than one ant and more than one cookie? Think about this story. What happens when 2 ants share 3 cookies? There's more than enough for each ant to have 1, but there's not enough for each ant to have 2. So how could you split the cookies into equal shares to make sure that each ant gets the same amount? I'll give you a moment to think. You might want to start by drawing rectangles, just like I have in the graham crackers here, and trying to cut them into halves or thirds or fourths, and seeing if you can give an equal amount to each ant. So one way to look at this is to think I could give each ant one whole cookie, and then with the last, I could split it in half like this, or I could split it in half like this. Sorry, my drawing's not the best. I'm still trying, that's what matters. So each ant would get 1.5 cookies. That's one way to think about it. Can you think about it another way? So we know that there's one way to solve this problem by giving each ant one cookie and breaking the last cookie in half. I wonder if there's more than one way to solve this problem. If we could break the cookies up into thirds or into fourths and give each ant the same amount. What do you think? Now would be a good time to pause the video if you can and try some things out. If you can't, you can follow along with me while I draw. So I'm going to start by trying to break some of these crackers up into thirds and see if I can share them equally between the two ants. I'm trying my best to make the parts equal. Okay, so now I have each of my graham crackers broken up into thirds. Now let's see if I can give an equal amount to one ant and to the other ants. Let's see, this first one, I could give 3 of the thirds to one of the ants. Let's say these all go to this first ant here. And then I could give 3 more thirds to the second ant. And so far I've given each ant an equal amount. But now I have to deal with this last cracker. So I could give 1 of the thirds to one ant. I could give 1 of the thirds to the other ant. Ooh, but I only have 1/3 left after that. So breaking each of them into thirds isn't going to work to share it equally. Okay, well what about fourths? Let's see if I can break it into fourths and share them equally. This would be a good time to make a prediction whether or not you think this will work. Okay, so I've broken each cracker up into fourths. Not the only way I could, but this is one way. And let's see if I can share it equally. Okay, so I'm going to give my first ant these 4/4 again. And then give my second ant these 4. And now let's go to the last cracker and see if I can share it equally. So I can give 1/4 to one ant, 1/4 to another, and then I still have 2 more, so I can split this last cracker equally, and each of the ants will get, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each ant will get 6/4, doing it that way. So you can share them by breaking them into fourths. Hey, let's try and solve another story. What happens when 3 ants share 2 cookies? So we have 1, 2, 3 ants this time sharing 2 cookies. I can already see that there's not enough for each ant to have a whole cookie by themselves. Let me start with halves. Let's see if I can break these into halves and share them equally among the ants. Let's see, I'm going to break them into half a different way this time but since each of the parts is the same size, it's still halves. Okay, let's make a yellow ant, a red ant, and a blue ant. Let's see. I'll give the yellow one this half. I'll give the red one this half. I'll give the blue one this half. So far each of them have one half. Ooh, but after that I only have one half left. So breaking this into halves wouldn't work to give each ant an equal amount and eat all of the cookie, because you know the ants want to eat all of the cookie. So here's the same problem again. We know that if we break the cookies into halves, that we won't have equal amounts for each ant and be able to eat the whole thing. So maybe let's try thirds and fourths and see if that works. If you want to pause the video now if you can and try it, that would be great. If you want to just draw along, I'll be quiet for a moment and do some drawing, and you can do some drawing too. Okay, I have my pictures divided into thirds and divided into fourths. I drew each a different way this time, but they are still thirds and fourths because I tried as best as I could to make each part the same size. So now I'm going to try to color them in with the colors I've given my ants and see if it will work to share them this way. Now, if you're not ready yet, go ahead and keep working on your own work. If you want to follow along with me, go ahead and do that too. So let's see, with this first cracker, I'm going to give a third to the orange ant, a third to the red ant, and a third to the blue ant. I'll come over here and give another third to the blue ant, another third to the red ant, another third to the orange ant, and it looks like thirds works as a way to share between these three ants. Looks like each of them get 2 of the thirds. So each of them get 2 thirds of the cookie. What about fourths? Let's see if that works. Let's see. Color in this fourth for the orange, this fourth for the red, trying to stay inside the lines as much as I can, this fourth for the blue ant, and then I'll start again at the orange, the red, the blue. Ooh, and as I'm getting close to the end, it looks like fourths aren't going to work for this. I was able to give 1, 2, 3 fourths to the orange and the red ants, but the blue ant only got 2 fourths, so that's not equal shares. So if I had 3 ants and 2 cookies, I would choose to use thirds to break those up. Now even more ants have shown up to the picnic. So what happens if 4 ants show up and we have 3 cookies? Would splitting them into halves work? What about thirds? What about fourths? You go ahead and you do some work on your paper, and I'll go ahead and do some work on my paper with each of those fractions. And we'll see if we can find a way to share the cookies among these 4 ants. If you're still working, feel free to keep working. If you'd like to look up and see some of my work, now would be a great time. So I tried halves on the previous slide when I turned the recording off, and that didn't work. So then I came over here and I tried thirds and fourths. When I cut each of the cookies into thirds, there weren't enough to give each ant equal shares and eat all of it. But when I cut them into fourths, each ant could have 3 of the fourths, so they were sharing equally. So today we were able to cut rectangles into halves, thirds, and fourths, and use our pictures to decide if we could share food equally among the ants that came to a picnic. Now I want you to think, how could you plan a picnic? If you were going on a picnic, who would go with you? What would you bring? And how could you cut things into equal parts to make sure that everyone got an equal share? I've enjoyed doing some math with you today. Thank you for joining me as you continue your learning from home. I look forward to seeing you again for our next lesson. And if you are looking for more activities, they can be found on the Spokane Public Schools Learning from Home website.